Our guest today is Derek Maltz, former DEA agent, and no one knows more about the impact of illegal immigrants and deadly drugs on America. Derek, great to see you. Great to have you on the show. We couldn't be talking at a more propitious moment, I don't believe, than right now. We are watching everything unravel on that border. We're even watching the northern border start to sag a bit. And people don't even realize the Canadian border our border with Canada is 5,500 miles. And we haven't, if you threw the entire Border Patrol at it, it wouldn't matter much, do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, we're being overrun with these reckless policies, facilitating the ability of cartels and Chinese to kill Americans at historic levels, Lou.
Yeah, it's just, I don't understand why the American people don't seem to be getting it. I know their elected representatives don't, but we're watching the formation of fifth columns in this country. There is the Chinese fifth column. There are the gang fifth columns. There are the Marxist dim fifth columns that are led, directed, and enabled by this Marxist regime of Joe Biden and the deep state, of course, with a lot of help. I mean, we're looking at existential threats from so many quarters, most especially, I guess we'd have to say, from the Chinese. Your thoughts?
Well, we have a massive surge, which is obvious, unknowns coming into the country. The police commissioner in New York City made a good statement this past week, calling it ghost criminals. Because now all these people that are here, we have no idea who they are. We don't even know where they came from. You can't verify anything. They're coming from countries that can't stand America. But in regards to the Chinese, Lou, we've talked about this. What I have an issue with is that Chris Wray comes out and he talks about the biggest threat to national security is the Chinese. But yet the Chinese are coming at the largest numbers we've ever seen illegally into the country. And then they're setting up these massive counterintelligence marijuana grow operations all over this country. What is wrong with that picture? How does anybody, whether you're Republican or Democrat, accept that? Without security, without border security, you have no country.
You have no country. And we have a Congress right now that is led by effete, uncertain. They're playing Hamlet. They don't know whether they should be conservative today and woke one worlders the next. We're in a leadership crisis without question. And Biden now and Mayorkas talking about ICE is going to release detainees because they didn't get what they wanted on their border bill, which was wide open, full amnesty, and devil take the hindmost. This is an administration that is evil and corrupt to the bone. The fact that they would threaten Americans with this, I would march them all out of there. I'd have the U.S. Marshals in there to march them all out right now. It's outrageous what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, just in my world, from being a DEA official for many years and looking at the problem, I mean, we have a legacy for this administration with over 300,000 dead Americans. And many of these Americans, as you can see behind me, are very young, and many of them are not even drug users. Just look recently, we had 4 dead in a home in Lake Tahoe. All right, we had 4 Americans poisoned in University of Dayton early February. The Kansas City Chiefs fans frozen in their backyard. But now we find fentanyl and cocaine in their system. So the country is being saturated with these poisonous substances. China is making even more potent substances now, like the isonitazines, nitazines, metanitazines. They're coming into the country, new types of bath salts, xylazine, which is rotting people down to the bone on the streets of this country. But yet the American public is ignoring it. That's the thing I don't understand, Lou. I can't understand it.
Well, I can't either. I wish I could be the guy to say, here it is. The only thing I can discern here is that we have so many people in this country who hate it now. These are Marxist Dems. These are the deep staters who together control the entire federal government. They control the national media. They control the Democratic Party, education, you name it. They're in control. And while Well, the rest of America is sitting here realizing that, yeah, the numbers are approaching 400,000 dead just since Biden took office. That's collateral damage in the war on drugs. We're fools, and we cannot seem to bring together a Republican Party that understands its mission has to be secure that border and deport those illegal immigrants, particularly the most dangerous and vile among them. We're done as a nation. People don't realize all of these millions of people. The estimate is now 14 million, the best estimate, and from Mark Morgan, who I respect immensely, and I know you do. He figures 14 million illegal immigrants into this country over the course of the 3 years that Biden has been in the White House. This is obscenity. It's madness. Our vulnerability. This is pure jeopardy and threat from within. And we can't seem to move this federal government because it isn't in its interest to move now. They're reporting to their Marxist friends and the puppet masters who oversee Joe Biden.
Right. So, Lou, one thing I want to bring up is President Trump has been pretty vocal about saying how these countries are exporting their criminals, their crazies, and all that stuff, right? Right. You look at what just is happening over the last week with this new gang out of Venezuela, Tren de Aragua, the MS-13 that are fleeing El Salvador at record numbers because the president of El Salvador happens to be very tough on crime. He's right. Got the terror prisons going. So, of course, they're coming to the weak American, soft on crime country. And now they're terrorizing our citizens. Look what they're doing in New York alone with snatching the pocketbooks, dragging people from the mopeds, ripping off these cell phones, sending them back down south. There's an extensive organized crime ring with these gangsters all over. I mean, breaking news yesterday, shooting in D.C., 3 cops are shot. The Kansas City parade, Chiefs parade, people, 1 person killed, 20 right. Injured. It's insanity. So that's the thing I have a hard time understanding. How the average American person, even if you're a Democrat, how do you accept this lack of law and order and this chaos?
It's a great question, and I think only one part of the answer is, and we're going to take a quick break here, Derek. One part of the answer is if you're voting Democrat, understand you're voting absolutely for Marxists. We are watching the takeover of the United States of America without a shot fired in the sense that there is no defense of America right now from the people who could defend it. And we're going to take that up further with Derek Maltz, great American. Stay with us. We're going to come right back. We're talking with Derek Maltz, and I have to say he's a former DEA official, and I want to give him credit for something. Years ago, he's the first person who really made me understand the dangers of fentanyl and what was happening in this country, and I credit him with my earliest knowledge of what has been going on, and he keeps up the tutorial as he is here today. Derek, to think that we don't have any recourse in this country. The American people are scared to death, I believe. I think this is the reason that you're seeing this. The January 6 prisoners are in jail for God knows how long because of these crooked creep DOJ and FBI officers who overcharged, over-prosecuted, and over-sentenced them all. The American people are watching what's happening. Cops aren't doing what they can or what they would have done. They can't keep the streets safe. There are not enough of them. They're being defunded. They're being demanned. We're being torn to pieces from inside, and I can't blame any American, any working man and woman, and their members of their family who are not being absolutely terrified right now. And I do urge every one of them: get a gun, whatever the hell else you do. Go get a gun and get prepared for the worst, because it looks like the worst is always possible in this country based on the experience of just the last few years alone.
Yeah, Lou, I mean, obviously with America's soft on crime policies and letting these savages out on the streets, this is not going to get any better anytime soon. And yes, you're correct. They're ripping us apart. And many people that are good Americans, they're afraid to speak out. I routinely get asked by media folks, to get some other retired law enforcement guys to speak out. And unfortunately, everybody is like afraid. Like the morale in law enforcement couldn't be any lower. They're leaving at record levels, which is really serious because if you don't have experienced law enforcement executive leadership to guide the young law enforcement officials out there, then what happens? Plus technology, Lou, all the encrypted communications now, Facebook, converting all these conversations into encrypted end-to-end communications, law enforcement's going to be in the dark. So as the criminals are invading us, we're losing the experienced law enforcement and the capabilities to be able to go after these criminal threats. So one thing I actually kind of focus on too is like, Mayor Adams actually said something which is accurate. This is a national problem. Well, no shit. We have a wide open border. It's not just New York, it's the entire country. And that's the thing that drives me crazy because these people around America think it's not going to hit them. It's already hit them.
Yeah.
The bills, you can't afford your food bills now and your gas bills. It's only going to escalate. Insurance, homeowners insurance, car insurance. It's all these hidden things that are creeping up on all of us. So it's coming to a head and it's really, really scary.
It is. And so I don't blame most folks in this country for being afraid. I really don't. I think they'd be fools not to be afraid, honestly. But what I don't have a handle on is why a Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, doesn't have the guts to take the lead here until President Trump is officially the 47th president, because we've got a long way to go to get to November 5th. And I don't like these Hamlet. I don't like anybody, frankly, who can't figure out who they are and where they're going and what their values are. I just haven't got time for that. People need to make choices, and the right choice. We're not making the right choices, and we are allowing school teachers decide what sex our children are. We're letting professors in universities decide whether or not we should be pro Hamas or pro Iranian. I tell you what, I wouldn't put up with one of them for 2 seconds. And I wish somebody, well, I better not say what I wish somebody would. These people are ignorant, they're leftist, and they are anti-American, and no one wants to say it out loud. These people hate us, and these people hate America. So why in the world should we not respond in kind and insist on an assertion of our values and this nation's sovereignty and principles? I just don't get it.
Well, I mean, I agree. And I also don't understand, and we've talked about this too, but like the first day that Biden's in office, he reverses all the sound policies that have actually worked to keep all these illegals out of this country and have some sense of order. But the fact that they reversed these policies, we know it's deliberate, right? They obviously have a plan. And the plan is actually destabilizing and destroying America. So, yes, they are facilitating the criminal networks around the world and the terror networks to accomplish their radical agendas, and that is to destroy America. And that's as simple as I could say it from my perspective in following this closely. And that's really sad because you would think growing up, when I spent my 28 years in law enforcement, my brother came back in a body bag from Afghanistan fighting for this country. My father was 30 years in DEA. I would have thought, like, over the years, like, the leaders of our government are supposed to keep us all safe, right? That's what we believed. And now, look, it's totally opposite. There's still great Americans out there trying. But look at the Border Patrol, Lou. The morale couldn't be lower. They have no job anymore of securing America. They're basically babysitters and processors, and they hate it. That's not what they signed up for.
No, and you know what else they did? Their union backed that idiot bill.
Yeah, that was surprising to me, honestly. Just for a pay raise for the Border Patrol, that's why they did. The political side of it, it's all about the money.
Well, Brandon ought to be ashamed of himself. That's all I got to say on that. I mean, that's ignorant. He has to be a bigger man than that. That job requires a bigger man. the Border Patrol should reject that. I mean, to a person, to a chat. I mean, it's just, we can't have a Border Patrol that is, if they're that weak, they're not going to be any good if we put them on the line, right? I mean it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear from them now. The Border Patrol has made itself a joke. I understand everything else, but now they're done. This is a group of people who have no principle, no guts. What do you think?
Well, I think the men and women that are working every day, putting their life on the line, once again, it comes down to, the leaders that are not willing to speak up, that are political. So it's really a sad situation because you would expect everyone in that organization to always put America's safety and security first.
Well,
the politics got to be put aside.
Derek, we can't get by it. They chose a pay raise. And they stay there. And you know what? We blame leaders in this country, but the truth is we followers are responsible too. We're responsible for putting
I agree what you're saying. To a degree, I agree with that. People are expected to speak out and fight this kind of stuff because it's not right. And it's not like it's a tremendous pay raise anyway. You know what I mean? It's just a small pay raise, I think a percentage and a half or whatever it was. So I agree, like they should be more outspoken about this, and they've caved under pressure.
We're talking with Derek Maltz. We're going to be right back. We're in just a moment. Stay with us. More on what we can do. We're back. We're talking with Derek Maltz, former DEA official. He is one of the great Americans who is bringing our attention daily to what is happening on the border, the consequences across this country, not just at the border, in every city in the country. Derek, if we had our druthers, as we used to say in this country, what would we druther? I don't know how we fix this. There are so many problems right now in this country. I'll be honest, I don't know how to fix them. I wish to the Lord I did. And I just don't know what we do as a first step. Other than, frankly, say no more.
Okay, so I don't have all the answers, but I'm a pretty basic guy. So let me start off with showing everyone what the problem is. Right now, if you could see this, we are severe in the post 9/11 Homeland Security chart. So America has to realize, because they're not listening to words. So look at the color, red, severe. So now that we know we have a severe conditions for our Homeland Security, we have to look at the primary threat. The primary threat right now is the Mexican cartels. They are putting poisonous substances into our communities. They are, sex trafficking, human trafficking at historic levels. So we need to make them feel some pain and hold them accountable because the current approach isn't good enough. So let's use the greatest and best capabilities and authorities we have, and let's start some precision strikes on the command and control of the cartels immediately. If Mexico does not want to participate, then we have to do what's in the best interest of Americans. So we have to get their attention. They're right at the southern border. Right now, they're operating with impunity. They're aligning themselves up with the Chinese nationals and the Chinese criminal networks. So we have to take action. That's number one. And I've always said this, and I learned this from a father who lost his nephew from fentanyl poisoning. That is, we got to turn off the water that's flooding our house. Well, the water is the fentanyl, and it's coming from the cartels, so we have to shut it down now. That's number one, Lou. And that is not going to be done anytime soon with this current administration because they're very soft. And by the way, the corrupt leaders in Mexico have no desire to shut down the cartels because they're the fifth largest, business enterprise in Mexico. So that's crystal clear. So we have to actually get the right leaders to step in and take care of the business.
Can I interject just with one news point? And that is the Biden administration sent over its emissaries to Beijing to beg President Xi to not send as much fentanyl as he had been, precursors, to Mexico to kill Americans. We're begging in Beijing under this president.
So can I interrupt right there? Because I want to make sure this is clear. So it's kind of like whack-a-mole, right? So as our sleepy government thinks that it's just a fentanyl issue right now, what about them addressing the public health and security crisis with the the isonitazines and the nitazines and the metanitazines. I mean, Attorney General Moody, like last year, had a press conference about these dangerous substances, and they're all coming out of the labs in China. And we're not even talking about that out of the White House. So once again, they're way behind. They're not proactive, and they don't even know, and they can't even assess what the problem is, because we have no national data on all the poisonings that are happening in the country like we did with COVID. So all these poisonings and people, their lives are being saved from Narcan, but we don't even know, so we can't even assess the problem.
Yeah. Well, we got to number one. What do we do next?
Well, I know what I would do. I'd be shutting down aid to these countries. That seemed to work under President Trump. I would be definitely putting a full-scale education campaign on the kids in this country. I would definitely be working and holding task forces accountable, and not just law enforcement. We're talking about intelligence community, DOD, and even private citizens that have technologies to go after these networks, because it's getting more and more complex, and the government is not paying attention. And a simple example is, like I said before, encryption in the communications. I mean, we've been talking about this for 20 years, and nobody's been paying attention to it, and now it's here. That means our brave men and women are in the dark.
And, you know, you were talking about the Middle East and Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Jordan. We're all over. Our troops are all over. They're being wounded severely, many of them, because we're allowing Iran's militias to fire on our troops without consequence. Yes, the Biden administration has fired back a few times, but nothing proportionate, nothing which, in my opinion, would be a deterrent. We're using up our people. We're squandering American lives under these leaders, these Marxist leaders, and people have to understand they've got to get rid of them, and get rid of them, period. We're a long way from November 5th, but we've got to understand it's Donald J. Trump. Or there's no more Republic, in my opinion. You get the last word, Derek.
Well, I can say this, Lou, that I'm part of Border 911. Tom Holman's leading the effort. We got Mark Morgan, Rodney Scott, Sarah Carter, and Jason Jones. And we're having an event down in Mar-a-Lago, April 4th. We're trying to actually raise awareness beyond, because America has said in the first two, up in Iowa and in New Hampshire, that the border and immigration is the number one issue. So we're going to work over the next several months, and we're going to start going around the country and educating as many people as we can. Hopefully people will wake up and realize that the country's over. We cannot sustain 4 more years of this madness. It's impossible.
Yeah. I think I'm hopeful right now, but it's a delicate kind of hopeful. There's a lot of ground to cover now, and we appreciate it. Derek Maltz, thanks for being with us. Thanks for being such a great American and a patriot. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lou. Appreciate it.